It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
We are live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Carl Coulage for the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me here on our live show. Today we're going to start the show off with a little bit of basketball. Let me introduce my contributors. We have Anthony Mullen, who decided to crash the party, the president of the Laker Nation Brooklyn Division. Ant, how you doing, bro?
I'm great as always, feeling marvelous, very copacetic.
We have Mike Miller, the pastor himself. Mike, how you doing, bro?
Doing great, man. It's an exciting day, man.
We have Paul the Great. Paul, how you doing, man?
Hey, great people do great things. Ask Paul George about that.
We have the coach himself. Coach, how you doing, man?
Listen, I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
I can't hear you, Coach.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
All right. I said I'm happy to be here, happy to talk basketball. And listen, I'm just trying to say some people said the Nuggets didn't belong on the court with the Clippers, and some people don't belong on this set with us.
Okay. And we have Mr. Falco himself from the Falco Takeaway. Falco, how you doing, bro?
What up?
What up? So,
I'll just
So today I am here, and people wanted me to speak, and Falco has been wanting Carl Coulage to talk more, and I've been doing my job as moderator. But today, let me speak and educate, because I've given Falco the platform. Falco is one of my students, and I call him Rookie. And he comes on this show and he talks a whole lot of shit, and he talks about how the Nuggets shouldn't belong here. He said to me that there were only two contenders in the entire NBA, that there were the Clippers and the Lakers. Nobody else belonged on the court with them. This is what we wanted. You say a whole lot of stuff. But then when I realized all the stuff that you were talking were factually incorrect, it didn't happen. And this is why I brought you here today. So you're going to just sit there and just listen. Yeah, you can sit there and just listen to everything. Because us as the veterans here on the Sports Hit List, we try to educate, and you don't listen. And you want to spew, and you said that you believed in Kawhi Leonard, and you said you even went to the length of saying that Giannis is overrated. He didn't deserve the MVP. And then now
whoa. No,
I'm not done yet. You know what? I'm going to mute you, because now I have the power to mute you, so you're going to listen. You're quiet. You're going to listen. So he's not going to talk. He's going to listen now, because you don't listen. So therefore, I'm going to mute you again, because you're not going to listen. Just wait 1 second and just listen to what we have to say. What I'm trying to say is that you run your mouth in the hit list. I don't know if you do it for likes. I don't know if you troll, but you just have to understand there's a simple thing in terms of basketball. Okay, simple thing in terms of basketball. And we told you this when they went 3-1. You said there is absolutely no way that the Nuggets can win the series. That's what you said. And here we are today, and the Nuggets won the series. So I turn it over to Coach Womack. Mac, what do you have to say to that, to add to that, to Falco?
Listen, I always talk to Falco when I say here, and I say he's the young gunner. We gotta get him right. We gotta get him through the mature phase and preach to him and help him out. But one thing in sports, and anybody can talk about this, you are on the court for a reason. Anything can happen at any time. We've seen it from the Yankees to the Golden State Warriors to what happened with even before Giannis got injured with Miami Heat and how they're playing. And the Nuggets played free. There's nothing like playing with freedom, nothing to lose. And when you got gunners like Murray, you got guys who take shots who are never scared, and Jokic, you have a fighter's chance. I said it. I said they have a fighter's chance. Did I take the Clippers? Yes, I took the Clippers. So I'm not going to stand here and be self-righteous, like I wasn't wrong on my pick. But I did say the Nuggets had a fighter's chance because they have professional basketball players who get paid millions of dollars to do what they do on that court. And when you go into, Carl pointed out this earlier, we all knew this. When you put them in a bubble with no fans, no refs, everybody's on equal sleep, equal food. Nobody had to travel and stay in the hotel room and do a shoot around in the hotel or take a bus ride that they didn't like to the stadium. It's evening out. It's evening out for a lot of teams, and the Lakers, the Lakers can tell you that first game against Portland, everybody said they had no chance. Portland did what? You can't. Now, can you sustain it is the question. But listen, all I got to do is just say, like last time, just say sorry. Just say sorry.
No, wait, he's not. No, we're not done with him yet, Coach. This is just a warm-up. We're not done with him yet because. Thank you for saying that, because I did tell him going into the bubble, it's neutral side, and he looked at me and he laughed at me and said, "I'm the old guy. I'm always wrong. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about." Pastor, can you educate the youth, please? Because I try to educate them in my classes and they don't listen. So could you educate them as the pastor, please?
Youngin. See, I didn't know you was doing this, man. I did not know you was doing this, but you did it to yourself again, man. Listen, like Max says, I think most people, pretty much everyone other than like Nick Wright, picked the Clippers to win this series. No one expected a 3-1 deficit. But youngin, you got to know that this is basketball, and at time, like for me, Game 5, we all made the excuse of, oh well, the Clippers just not taking them seriously. And then Game 6, when you saw what happened after Game 6, then that's when you were supposed to wake up and say, nah, we're watching the collapse happen live. And once you saw that, you were supposed to just apologize then. But now you got to apologize now. And it's okay, youngin. We're here to help you out. That's what we're here for. We're just here to help you. That's all. Go ahead.
All right. So, no, I'm not done yet. Okay, hold on, wait.
Let everybody come on. Let everybody.
I want some of him too.
Hold on. Hey, I'm going to
I want some too.
Paul the Great, your turn. Can you please, my brother, can you help me educate the youth? That's what we're trying to do here today. We're having a lesson to educate the young man, Brandon Falco. Your turn.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Brandon. You know, because I've told you in the past, you out of control. You're a hybrid. You're like a guy on the Autobahn doing 250. You know what I'm saying? At some point, you got to be course corrected. Performance management is my skill set, right? So let me help you out. What you said about the Denver Nuggets is crazy. One of the deepest teams in the game, right? When you look at how deep Denver is, we knew Denver had a shot. It wasn't a shooting, like Coach said, a fighting chance. Absolutely. But you remember what happened to Mike Tyson, right? You got in the same ring, Buster dropped him, and it was lights out after that. So when I look at, I picked the Clippers in 5 actually initially, which it should have been over. Pastor Mike was just speaking about what happened in Game 6. I was concerned after Game 5. You understand? Denver got lottery picks all over the court. Jamal Murray has been unguardable in the bubble, and he struggled the first 4 games of the series. So when I seen him go off like he did in Game 6, I said on our chat to Carl, I don't think they got a shot. I think give me the upset. I went out there and said Nuggets at +7, and y'all thought I was tripping, and it ended up being +20. This is what happens in sports. When you ride the hot hand, ain't no stopping you, not even the FDNY. So, Brandon, just control your emotions. You said Frank Vogel wasn't a great coach.
God.
Tripping. Right? You know what I'm saying? Now, Mike Malone, what you going to say about him? You said they ain't belong on the court. Tripping. Watch your mouth. So I'm going to let Ant take the floor next. But just know you're wearing that yellow T-shirt for a reason. That's all I'm saying, bro. Control your emotions, or we will have to terminate you. I guarantee you.
And you know what? Speaking of that, I'm actually considering a suspension. What do you guys think about that? What do we think about that? Listen. So Anthony, the social media coordinator for the Sports Hit List, who's on the team, who is the president of the Laker Nation Brooklyn division. Anthony, can you please help me educate the youth? This is the narrative for today. Help me educate young Brandon.
So young, so impressionable. But this is what's going on here. I'm highly disappointed. I thought the young grasshopper, I thought he was, he had a lot of heart. I thought he was really, really riding until I wake up to see that, did you only root for the Clippers to jinx them because you were scared of the Clippers?
Don't give me that.
Is that really what you said? Don't answer. It's rhetorical. No, he doesn't have to answer. Keep him muted. Is that really what you said? Like, this is me. I'm not that I want to see what Sunday. You got to take that shirt off. You cannot nothing Lakers today. Nothing at all. I don't want to see no chest beating. No, nothing. Not until Friday. Friday, we friends again. We cool. But today, I don't want to hear it. Now, off of that, back to the Clippers. Back to being impressionable. See, you drunk the Kool-Aid maybe. Maybe it wasn't a jinx. Maybe you heard all of the pundits and the, experts and everybody say, how good the Clippers are and how, they're the only team that's actually going to beat us, and they're better than us, and they're so deep and defensively talented and all these different things. And, being young, you don't understand. They're the Clippers. Like, you wasn't here for a lot of this stuff. So that's why I was like, I'm trying to tell. This is nothing to be scared of. It's the Clippers. Like, stop it. Like, the Clips going clip eventually. I wanted to be the ones that, of course, I wanted the Lakers to clip them, but it just didn't happen. It's the Clippers.
You see the Carolina, that's what happens when the Clippers don't show up.
The Clippers.
My joint looking crazy.
Yo, I saw somebody.
You ain't careful, you end up like me, baby.
I saw somebody say I'm canceling my barber's appointment for at least 2 months because the way the Clippers are performing right now, I'm not trusting none of them.
All Clippers is suspect.
No more Clippers.
So Falco, after we educated you, what do you have to say for yourself?
I apologize for my comments.
There we go.
Listen.
Very good. You're learning already. You're the kind of man right before our eyes. Good for you.
It was a bad take. It was a bad take, and I did not see it coming. I feel like in the past there was other scenarios where we think we're seeing an upset, and it's just not meant to be, and it's just not going to happen. I just thought the Battle of LA, the basketball gods, were going to make sure that happened. I thought the best team was going to win the series. I thought, you know what? They struggled in Game 6. They had some bad possessions. Game 5 was similar. I said, you know what? Game 7, I think Kawhi is that dude. No, I don't think he's the best player in the world. I still think he's one hell of a player and a top player in the NBA. I thought he would really give it to him. I really believed that he was a cold-blooded assassin. I thought he was going to give it to him. But that was pathetic. That was an all-time choke job by the Clippers. And you know me about choke, that it's thrown around too much. That was the definition of a pure choke job. I can't believe we're not seeing the Battle of LA. I'm still stunned.
Call.
Go ahead.
Just to echo, I was wrong too about Kawhi, but I noticed something, and this was before game 6 and game 5. Certain players, until they play as the favorite, still have to learn how to deal with pressure. And people always say when you're the favorite, and that's why I hate the when people always say, well, Jordan, and I'd hate to bring up Jordan, but Jordan never won. All the championships he won, he was the favorite. What does that mean? When you're the favorite, you have tons of pressure on you because if you lose, everyone is killing you. Last year, Kawhi, even without Kevin Durant out, people still thought Golden State will win. Who's Kyrie? What is Kyle Lowry going to do? You know what I mean? What is Ibaka's out? Siakam? Excuse me, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Siakam, he's good on defense, but he's not ready to take over. But when you get the pressure and all the bullseye and all the papers and every tweet and every analyst is saying you're going to win and everyone's debating on why you chose to go where and go here and go there, that is more pressure on you as a player. And we saw it last night. After they gave up that 10-point lead in the first quarter, I knew it was over. When they were up 10, I knew it was over. After that.
Coach, let me add
so Paul the Great, I actually have a question for you. Me and you have kind of been on the same page about this. Doc Rivers needs to come to the front of the congregation. You knew that's where I was going because I stated something about Doc Rivers. I said he was overrated and people laughed at me and they said, I don't know what I'm talking about. I said he's a great motivation.
I'm telling you for years.
I've been saying that for years and years in Orlando. This is the third time that Doc Rivers is giving up a 3-1 lead. He did it in Orlando once. This is the second time on the Clippers. He's been the coach of the Clippers, I believe, for the last 7 seasons. Where do we put Doc Rivers? Should he get fired or do we put him on the hot seat?
I'm going to be honest with you, Coach, and Carl, and the rest of the panel. Doc Rivers should have been fired already. And let me tell you why. He's, in my opinion, just my opinion, right? In the words of Ray Jarvis, my opinions are my own, right? I'm not even sure Doc Rivers is a top 10 coach currently in the National Basketball Association, right? He's a guy that, he's a good face. He's an African-American coach leading an African-American staff, right? So that has some sort of value, right? He's been there. But let me just dissect a few things. And Coach Matt can speak to this as a guy who's coached elite AAU talent, some under-the-radar really good guys at St. Francis, and has actually played at a very high level, right? The whole rah-rah motivational speech stuff does not work for elite superstars in the playoffs. It never has, and it never will. You never seen Phil Jackson rah-rah on the sideline in the Bulls era or the Lakers era. You didn't see Ty Lue doing it when Kyrie hit the shot. It just doesn't happen. And if you rely on that to get you over the hump, you end up on the other end of the hill falling back. So when I think about a guy like Doc Rivers, yes, we love to see him talk and speak and talk about the Black Lives Matter movement and and the coach was the previous owner who said the racist remarks. We appreciated Doc at a human level. But Doc, the basketball coach, is an underachiever. Coach Tibbs, in my opinion, had a greater impact on that Celtic championship, led by 3 superstars at that time. Some would say 2 superstars and 1. Some don't say Ray Allen's a superstar. It was 3 superstars with a really deep bench, in my opinion. But we seen them get clipped in Orlando. We seen the Clippers underachieve for years with Lob City. And here we are talking about the Clippers blowing a 3-1 lead in a neutral site where he was completely outcoached this entire postseason. Rick Carlisle outcoached him. We could all agree that Rick Carlisle in Dallas outcoached Doc Rivers. He just didn't have his firepower, right? KP wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen Mike Malone outwork him the last 5 quarters of this series. So at some point, you got to say to yourself, wouldn't you want a Nick Nurse or even a Sam Cassell to take that spot? Somebody who could honestly get rid of the whole rah-rah Google leadership nonsense, because that shit doesn't work.
I don't think he's that guy. They say he's not that guy. They say he's the opposite.
So hold on, Coach, go ahead.
Because it goes on top of that. But then here's the devil's advocate. This may be another session. If Boston doesn't get to the championship,
Brad,
is he just at that level? Because he's been to that same line. He has the most talent on the East right now.
I've been saying my boy G.
Listen, I'm going to get to the Celtics in a sec, but Mike, let me ask you this question: Can you convince me that the Nuggets are going to the finals, or is that too far of a stretch?
We take that's maybe a bridge a little too far, my brother.
Why is that? Because going into the series, we thought the series was over 3.
Here's the thing. This is your question ties into everything else that Paul and Max said. See, the beauty of the NBA playoffs, unlike any other sport, is you cannot hide in the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs, because it's a 7-game series, it will reveal who you actually are. The reason I wore this shirt is because this was one of the moments where James Harden revealed actually who he is. He did it again this year. Siakam, we saw who he really is. Everybody can't be Michael Jordan. Some people just got to be Scottie Pippen. So when it looks at the Nuggets, they are revealing who they are to us. They are a very gritty and tough team. Who thought we would say that about the Nuggets? Now, I'm not going to pick them against the Lakers, but Big B, when you see what you're seeing, is one of those things that we was all challenged with at times. Is do we focus on, in the playoffs, do we focus on what a team does against other teams, or do we focus on what a team can do against the team they're facing? That's what happened with me stupidly picking Portland, is because I focused on what they did against other teams and not the Lakers. Falco saying that they never had a chance is because he focused on other things. So if we look at just Denver versus the Lakers, what Denver does well versus what the Lakers do well, the Lakers probably are going to beat them in 5 or 6. But Denver has talent. Denver was a sleeper team that I picked that I said could possibly make it to the finals. They have all the talent to be able to win this championship, and they're revealing that they're a tough, gritty team. But right now, the Lakers are another beast right now.
Listen, Jamal Murray said last night in his postgame, he said we need to start putting some respect on his team's name. So I don't think you're putting any respect on his team's name right now, Mike. I'm just letting you know what's going on.
Disrespect to say that that the 3rd seed may not beat the 1 seed that's 8-1 in the 8-2 in the playoffs. That isn't disrespect. It's just realizing just because you beat the heartless Clippers you will beat the Lakers. Like,
okay. So let's move on real quick to the Eastern Conference Finals. Brandon Falco, Bam Adebayo had a great block against Jason Tatum last night in overtime. Miami is up. Can you see Miami going to the finals?
I'm not hopping off the bandwagon. I picked the Celtics before the bubble restarted. I'm still keeping the same energy. I think the Celtics, Brad Stevens and the Celtics do a great job defending the three, which we know the Heat are the best three-point shooting team in the NBA. I still think talent for talent, the Celtics are a better team than the Heat. Coaching, I think it's literally just a coin flip. I think Brad Stevens and Spell have been exceptional coaches. But at the end of the day, I like what Kemba and Tatum could do down the stretch. I think they're more clutch than what a Jimmy or a Bam could be. Bam had a great block, but the notion that's the greatest block in postseason history, cut it out.
Ridiculous.
No, it is. Okay, Ridiculous. Paul the Great, real quick, because I know Travis is waiting to ramble about football in the room right now. So, what do you think about the Eastern Conference Finals? Listen, I'm managing a room. We don't care. We won in the NFL. Oh my God. You see? So listen, Travis, if you're watching, you see, this is what I got to deal with.
Nah, we like
complaining about
airtime. We like football, but when it gets to December. Or when it gets to November, then we don't talk anymore. Then you got it.
Okay, Paul the Great, what are your thoughts on the Eastern Conference Finals?
I know he's waiting in the wing, but we doing our thing.
Talk to him, man. Talk to him.
Paul the Great, what is your thought on the Eastern Conference Finals? What do you think is going to happen in that series?
I've been talking about the Heat since the bubble started, and they drubbed Mike Miller's paces and slapped Millen out of his job.
Who was playing? Me? Reggie Miller? Who was playing?
I don't care who was out there.
You should care. That matters. So he's trying to make it seem like it was Reggie and Jermaine O'Neal playing. Stop it.
So here's what I'm going to say to Mr. Falco's statements about the Heat and the Celtics being the most talented team. My concern with the Boston Celtics right now is Marcus Smart seems to be the only guy willing to take and make the right shots. That's my concern. Kemba offensively has been atrocious, but I'm more concerned about
the last 3 games. Let me just say,
it's more.
The last three games almost doesn't count, Mike. The last 3 games he's been struggling. I'm going to be honest.
Better word.
I'm more concerned about Kemba defensively, right? So you cannot give up 30 points to Dragic. It's just that can't happen.
Oh, most of that was in the first half.
Well, Mike, it doesn't matter when it happened. He gave 30 points.
Okay. Coach, can you chime in here for the Eastern Conference Finals? What are your thoughts after Game 1?
My thoughts are kind of similar with Paul in terms of I picked the Celtics, but I picked the Celtics with Kemba playing average or above average to what he's done this entire season. I'm starting to get worried now because when I was watching the last against Toronto, I was like, okay, it's just 1 game. Then I was like, it's just 2 games. You know, Kemba's in New York City. I have a lot of pride in Kemba. Harlem's own, Rice High School. You know, I'm a Kemba supporter. UConn, step back all the way through. But now I watched the last game, and he hit a tough shot, but he's not the Kemba that we're used to. And you know what it might be coming to? When the pressure comes on and you are expected to win and you've never been in that position in the NBA, it's something different. But I'm telling you this.
Say it again, Matt.
AKA Lemon Booty.
You cannot hide.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
But I do believe that Game 2, we're going to see a different Kemba Walker. You can mark it down. I'm not giving the Celtics a win, definitely, but Kemba will come out to play more aggressive and he will play better. But defensively, like Paul said, I don't care if it's in the first half. I don't care if it's in overtime. The reason why the Miami Heat were in that game, Boston could have pulled away 2 or 3 different times, but Dragic and 1, Dragic 3. Don't fight over the screen 3. Kemba, and in the Toronto series, they were picking on Kemba. They were just playing pick and roll, and whoever he was guarding, they had the guy. What's the guy named for Toronto that shot the 3 in Game 6 to win it?
Powell.
They had Powell go 1-on-1 from the top of the key with 10 seconds because they thought that.
To wrap up, Mike, did you believe Tatum was trying to channel his inner Kobe to try to hit the game winner when Marcus Smart was open, and also trying to be the hero with the dunk?
That's what he said.
No, I'm asking you. Do you think he tried to?
No, I think Kobe? Yeah, he tried to get the and 1. It just didn't work. Like he tried to get the and 1.
But what about trying to win the game at the end of regulation? And he
shot.
Super shot. Listen, Kemba hit the game winner. It just didn't end up the game winner. But hold on, real quick. I think I agree with Mac. The only problem I think Kemba's having, and I think he's gonna figure it out, is this stupid zone. And why are we allowing grown men to play zone? What are we doing, NBA? This is crazy. This is ridiculous. But that's what's killing him. Is everybody keeps playing this 3-2 zone or this boxing one, and it keeps throwing him off. So I think he'll get it together. I'm still picking the Celtics in 6.
Hey, Brad Stevens, you on the clock, B. Brad Stevens.
Okay, president of the Lakers division, say your final. I know what you want to say. You want the Celtics and the Lakers in the finals for the Lakers.
Oh yeah, you know it. We need to get 17 on 17. Yes, indeed. I need y'all in the finals. Please show up. Don't clip like the Clippers. And yes, 17 will be had this year. Lakers in 5 the rest of the way. Don't even matter who it is.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining me here. We may have some post-game lives depending on...
we not leaving. We not leaving.
Listen, I'm bringing in the football team. I'm bringing in the football team.
I'm saying no. We in here.
Listen, you guys want to talk football? Here they come. Travis, listen, here he comes.
Listen, I'm not leaving.
Travis, he took your time.
First of all, next time, you cut that mic, yo. I'm not trying to hear this, all right? This is the learn that football is king around here, all right?
No, I don't want to hear that. No.
We on schedule. It ain't our fault y'all couldn't get it together. It's a reason why y'all games move to 7 o'clock.
Get the bubble guys out of here, man. Get the bubble guys out of here.
Y'all moved because y'all was scared of us. Get out of here.
Listen, you lucky I got kids. I would stay on here, man.
Yo, bubble guys gotta go. Bubble guys gotta go.
I'll talk to you, man. Falco, I'll talk to you, man. Thanks for being a great sport, bro. All right. So now we have the football team in here. We have Paul the Great sticking around. He's pulling a doubleheader. Travis, Mr. Box Office. New York native, Florida resident, Rick Ricardo. I'm sorry for the delay, but you guys saw what I was dealing with.
Next time, cut their mics, Carl.
All right. So for the fans who don't know, let me do a little bit of screen sharing real quick to make the special announcement. Special shout out to Travis for pushing for this. Starting on Sundays, we're going to be doing live pre-games. So there it is, Sundays pre-game at 12:30 on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. For those fans out there who want to get a little bit of preview to their Sunday and get a little bit of insight from us, log on there each and every Sunday during the NFL. You can get nothing but tips, and we'll have a lot of fun here pre-gaming for NFL Sunday.
I mean, Travis, come start a brunch with us. Might have some.
Come start a brunch, have some mimosas. Why not? But we wanted to start off today by talking about the week of the NFL. Travis, the floor is yours. You had a quick segment that you developed that you wanted us to talk about.
Man, I just wanted to go over first week 1 thoughts. Everybody hit their teams. I'm gonna start off with them Raiders versus Panthers, man. The defense, it looks trash. I mean, it looked like I expected it to look. We've got a lot of young guys over there. The offense looked better than I expected it to, so I could see that, it's kind of what we lean into. I guess this is the new era of Panthers football. Hopefully the defense can catch up with us. We let Josh Jacobs out there running around looking like CMC out there. I was not happy about that. That 4th and 1 call was terrible. I mean, I'm not running a fullback dive right there. I mean, you just made CMC the highest paid running back in the league. Give him the ball. I would either rather y'all have a QB sneak with Teddy Bridgewater, man. But other than that, we'll see. Like I said, next week we got Tampa Bay, so we'll see what happens with that. They didn't look too good. Seahawks versus impressive game I thought about was the Seahawks versus the Falcons, man. They finally let Russ cook. I said it when we was talking about the NFC West division. It's time to let Russ out of the stables. Like, just let him go out there. They have a tendency to wait until they get into trouble to when they want to let him get out of trouble. Nah, put the pedal to the metal from tip off, and they did. He was out there 31 for 35, 88% completion, 322 yards, 4 TDs. That Jamal Adams trade is paying dividends right there, man. He had 8 tackles, 4 assists, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. I'm going to let y'all hit y'all teams, man, before we give out these game balls around here to players we thought had good weeks.
All right. Rick, what were your thoughts on week 1 for your team?
Well, I mean, it went about as I expected it to go. I mean, again, it's a young team with a whole bunch of new parts. We're still trying to figure it out, see what's going on. I think the other side of the ball, I'll definitely give credit first. Patriots look really solid. Cam looked really solid and healthy, which is good to see, regardless of what team I root for. Cam is somebody I do like to see do good. So I want to see him healthy and kind of get back to where he's been before and kind of show everybody what it is, you know. So that was good to see. But as far as the Dolphins go, again, lots of new parts, man. It's going to be a while. I feel like it'll be at least another 3 to 4 weeks before we can really, you know, have an idea of what our identity is and what we're trying to do going forward. Defense specifically, you know, they held their own. I think a couple of mistakes here and there, specifically on the offensive side, is what might have really led to our demise. So speaking of the offensive side, obviously, you know, we got Fitz back there. You know, sometimes it's magic, sometimes it's tragic. So, you know, we deal with that until the baton is eventually kind of handed off and whatnot. The backfield was a little weird. You went out and you got 2 guys in the offseason in Jordan Howard and Matt Breida. Then, you know, yet you have, you know, Gaskin ends up being kind of like the lead guy for the game. So that was kind of weird. I like seeing Mike Gesicki get out there and get a little open. Love seeing Preston Williams get back out there. Devontae, hopefully he's healthy going forward. Hate to see him get injured because obviously he showed what he could do when he could stay healthy last year. So again, I think a couple more weeks before we really know what we got going on in Miami, especially with you know, brand new offense and whatnot going in. As far as my most impressed, at least the team that stood out to me more than anything the first week, was the Green Bay Packers, man. I mean, we've been roasting the Packers all off season. People have been out there thinking Aaron Rodgers was done. A bunch of fantasy drafts I did, Aaron Rodgers was going down in the basement rounds, man, and it was disrespectful. So to see him get out there and go crazy against, you know, a defense that is supposed to be pretty good. So it's not like we're just going to say, oh, he played the Vikings, you know. Devontae Adams, wow, balled out. You had Lazard played well. Scantling, I forget his hyphenated name. But, you know, a bunch of guys out there kind of really playing their part and helping Aaron Rodgers look good. So if they drafted his successor to motivate him, I'd say job well done up there.
All right, MVP, Paul the Great, what are your thoughts on your team for week 1 and what team stood out to you?
Hey, the beauty of being Paul the Great and not having a team is you can just speak on specific things that you thought stood out. So for starters, for me, I was impressed with the actual product itself. I feel like the NFL, with the exception of the weird virtual off-site national anthems, I felt like the NFL was back to normal. I enjoyed watching Red Zone all day, finishing with the Sunday Night Football product, which was a controversial ending, but a great game. I will say this. Shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, we just were clowning them with Dan on the show a week ago about the direction. Nobody expected them to really outpace and outspace the predicted division winner in the Colts. I'm very concerned for the Philadelphia Eagles that came out like a gangbuster, 17-0 early, and then couldn't move the football at all.
Listen, the Washington football team, they 1-0.
Hey,
that was rough. Yeah.
Number 1 in the division after week 1.
They 1-0.
When you think about it, low key, right? So you got a coach battling cancer, getting an IV in the locker room, and then you got Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback who was shitted on last year, rile up the troops and then go out there and perform. I mean, I was impressed. I got to tell you. And we're not shocked about what we see defensively. Ron Rivera is a genius on defense, and they're loaded. But I was impressed, man. They made play after play after play after play. The Falcons game, listen, when you can't stop the pass, it's over. I don't really care about the Falcons. But the other question mark I got is, believe it or not, as well as the scoreboard looked for the Saints, they didn't actually look too good to me at all, right? They can talk this Michael Thomas ankle injury later. Yeah. Tom Brady won't make those same mistakes late. In the second half, he actually played pretty well. He didn't get hit every time he dropped back. Alvin Kamara, nor could Murray run the football. I think that will be a concern long-term for the Chiefs. Drew Brees looked average. So I wasn't impressed there, despite the 34-23 primetime game. I wasn't impressed.
All right. So
game balls.
Travis, you said you're giving out game balls. Who are you giving the game ball for week 1?
My offensive game ball goes to Aaron Rodgers, man. Y'all done pissed that man off. Y'all went out here. Y'all thought y'all was gonna draft his replacement. Y'all thought he had a few 1 or 2 more years out here left. But guess what? He said he's coming to show y'all different, man. He was 32 for 44, 364 yards, 4 TDs, and 0 turnovers. My defensive game ball goes to, we got a rookie here. I'm going to give it to Chase Young of the Washington football team, man. First game out, 2 tackles, 4 assists, 1.5 sack, and a forced fumble against a future Hall of Famer and Jason Peters. I mean, Jason Peters might be a little past his prime, but you can kind of see.
You should do that to Jason Peters. He's 60 years old.
It's right. You can see why they was ready to move him to left guard. I mean, they got a bunch of injuries on that offensive line, but I like how he went out there and produced right there as a rookie in his first game out.
All right. So, Rick, who are you giving your game balls to offensive and defensively for week 1?
So offensive, man, I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley, man. Like, it's always been said that the wide receiver position is probably one of the toughest to kind of grasp and transition to from college into the NFL as a rookie. And I'll say in the past 3 or 4 years or so, we've seen some really like amazing talent at the wide receiver position come in and transition pretty well and get going kind of early. But, a guy like Calvin, man, that dude is balling. He's been balling since his rookie year, and he's continued to get better and better. People will say that, it's a product of being on the other side of Julio. Absolutely not. The kid's got talent, man. He's a great route runner. He gets separation very well. I mean, he's out there doing his thing. So go out there. I think it was like 9 receptions, about 130 and 2 touchdowns. Like, Calvin Ridley's the truth, man. On the defensive side,
found the number 2.
Yeah. And I mean, he may very well be the number 1 before you know it, I think on the
still got Julio there. Slow down there.
True. But remember, Tom is undefeated, man.
Not even just that. If they're not in the playoff race, Julio can be dealt. Yeah. We've seen it before.
I say on the defensive side, man, I didn't pick one guy. I picked the unit, man. To see what the Steelers did out there on Monday night was pretty damn awesome. They went down there and held the Giants to something like 28 yards to rushing or something like that. Saquon had 6, I think. That doesn't even sound right. Beyond that, you got 3 interceptions, you got 2 sacks, but the more important part is where those interceptions and sacks came at what points they came in the game. They had like a really bend but don't break kind of thing going on where the Giants were able to move the ball at times, but, just weren't necessarily able to get into the end zone or get over the hump and score necessarily. The defense just continued to tighten up in those tough spots when they needed to. So I really liked what I saw from the Steelers defense as a whole.
Giants still getting hit in the backfield right now. That's how bad it was. It was bad.
Paul the Great, who are you giving your game balls to for week 1 for offensive and defensive?
Offensively, Kyler Murray. When you think about how bad the Cardinals was as an offensive unit last year, I mean, not him personally, but O-line, no running game. We started to question Cliff Kingsbury, the new offensive guru, youngest head coach in the league. And you fast forward to the moves they made and how effective they played against arguably the best defense in football in the 49ers, they didn't lose anything, right? I was impressed. 26 of 40, 230. It was about 6 drop passes in that game, so it could easily have been at 75%. Also, 13 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown with a comeback fourth-quarter victory. The show was real. We did the NFC West preview, and we both all talked about how excited we were for the Cardinals. The time is now. I am excited. I am impressed. And defensively, I'm disappointed in my castmates. Aldon Smith missed 5 years of football due to domestic violence, off-field issues, was banned from the league multiple times, and yet he went out there against one of the best offensive tackles we've seen in probably recent memory, right? He's in the top 10 up there in Whitworth. 11 tackles, a sack. Probably could have got credit for another 4 or 5 assisted tackles.
Super disruptive.
Aldon Smith at 31 to not play a game since he was 26 looks like he could have been dominating the league the last 5 years. You can only have the what if he never left the game mindset.
I couldn't believe he was out for 5 years, though.
Yeah.
Like,
When I heard it, I was like,
he's
what?
always been an athletic freak of nature. Like, it's
to do what he did, man, it's no way that you can tell me on primetime television that Aldon Smith, even in a losing effort, that game would have been a blowout if Aldon Smith wasn't out there because in the beginning, they could not stop the Rams, right? That outside zone was killing them in play action. We seen Woods go for 60 yards the first 3 plays of the game. So Aldon Smith for me on the defensive end.
Let me throw you guys a quick question before we wrap up. Any super early coach on the hot seat? Rick?
So, I mean, coming into this season, I think everybody would have been looking at Bill O'Brien. I got to give him a little bit of credit. Obviously, we still have to see how everything plays out. But David Johnson looked okay. Got some production out of the receivers. The line is just crap, so it is what it is. So I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go straight to New York, New Jersey, man. Adam Gase, he's got to go. If the Jets look like that, I'd say 1 or 2 more times in the next 4 or 5 weeks, there's no reason why the dude should still have a job. I'll actually go out on a limb and say that he's probably the one and only coach that David Fucko could do a better job than. Brandon Fucko, right? What's his name?
Come on, man, bro.
What's his name?
No, time out, bro.
Flacco.
Come on,
Brandon
man.
Flacco. What's his name?
David.
No, what's his name? Not
Brandon Falco.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I agree with him. He could probably coach better than Adam Gase. I'll give him.
Oh man.
What happened?
Travis, could you what coach you
Yo, blame the teleprompter, yo. Somebody typed that wrong, man.
Do you have any coach on the hot seat?
I don't really have a coach on the hot seat, but I do have a player who needs to get it together because that Thursday night football game tomorrow is going to tell a lot. Baker Mayfield has to produce. If he come in there and if he shows up and let Joe Burrow, the number 1 pick, come in there in Cincinnati on the road and beat him, it's going to be a lot of problems in Cleveland, man. It's
Okay. MVP, do you have any coach on the hot seat?
Can I give you more than one, please?
2. Can I give you 2?
You can give me 2, and I'm gonna try to squeeze in the 3rd.
Okay. Listen, I got hockey on deck, man. Listen, we
got
Stanley Cup.
I'm basketball. I don't.
We got hockey. Chuck is waiting to talk about the Islanders.
It's a domino effect. Basketball made us wait. Hockey,
right?
So check this out. At the pace he's on, Dan Quinn will get fired. He should have gotten fired at the end of last year, but moral victories, for some reason, crept into Arthur Blank's mind in Atlanta when they finished strong, when they had nothing to lose, playing free, right? So Dan Quinn, as my guess is he's gone by week 12, right? Secondly, this might shock the Philly Eagles fans, but I'm going to put Doug Peterson on the hot seat. Since that Super Bowl win, the Eagles have been nothing but marginal at best. They've been bad defensively, and offensively they fell off a cliff, and they haven't drafted particularly well. 9-7. And boy, I tell you, there won't be another cardiac resurgence at the end of the season this year, looking at their schedule. Doug Peterson, for me, is on the hot seat. You have everybody else locked up. You got your quarterback. You got your star running back potentially in Miles Sanders. Peterson is on the hot seat. You can find great offensive coaches all along the football line. And last but not least, Vic Fangio from the Denver Broncos. Yep, most people don't know who he is unless you're a football guy. But you cannot be a guy who has no experience in developing young talent, be loaded with young talent, and make blunders like not calling timeouts with the game winnable on the line to give yourself a shot on Monday Night Football. When you do stuff like that, you get fired. That's what happens in America. So Vic Fangio, whatever his name is,
I think he was quoted saying he wasn't paying attention. He was busy paying attention to calling the next defensive play. That's why he missed the timeout.
Okay.
I'll say this.
I got 2 more quick questions. Go ahead.
Hold on, let me jump in real quick. I'll say one thing about Peterson. I agree with you as far as him kind of being on the hot seat if it continues that way. But one thing I will say, I think Philadelphia is uniquely in a position where that one Super Bowl is probably going to buy him a whole lot.
They gave Andy Reid so much time. Reid so much time.
I think that one Super Bowl buys him a long time.
He's good.
Mediocre will keep him there.
And this is something that you guys can all appreciate. It's like when you get your first raise at work. You then know that you can go back, continue to perform, and ask for another one. If you're Jeffrey Lurie and the Philadelphia Eagles, we've gotten better since we won a Super Bowl. However, our productivity has gotten worse. That is a leadership issue. And the only way you can fix that is with the guy calling the plays and his control in the locker room. I promise you, Doug Peterson is on the hot seat. They missed the playoffs this year. Doug Peterson's gone.
Okay, just real quick, prediction for Thursday Night Football: Bengals versus Browns. Travis, who you got?
I got the Bengals coming in on a Thursday on the road. I got them.
Okay,
I like what I seen Joe Burrow.
Rick?
Same here, man. Burrow looked good, and like Travis mentioned before, man, Baker's got to be better. There's way too much talent on that team for them to be looking the way they are, man.
Paul?
No way. Give me Cleveland by double figures. I think Odell has a great game. I think Landry shows up, and I think they get back to giving Nick Chubb the Russian lead of the football.
Okay, and
fantasy needs it. I hope so.
Coming up as our main event debate, this has been brewing for a while now. Marcus Lamar versus Greg Polius about Julian Edelman. Is he overrated or not? Quick thoughts. Is Julian Edelman overrated, or is that a stretch? Rick?
Yeah, he's overrated. He's not a top 5. He's not a top 10. He's not a top 15. Like, we got to stop. Julian Edelman is good for what he does, but he ain't a top guy.
Box office?
I've never put him in that. So I think I've always accurately rated him as he's a decent slot receiver. I've never put him in the top 5 or top 10. I don't know who does that.
And MVP, what do you think?
Julian Edelman has made big plays in big moments and has done it for years. He is overrated. I'm a fan of Edelman, but he is a slot guy. And you can't be the guy if you're a bona fide slot guy. So for that reason, I've never seen Julian Edelman win one-on-one when it mattered most. I've never seen him get featured that way. So for that reason, he's made a career of beating zone defenses and bad linebackers.
On option routes.
Let's give a shot. Wait,
and if Greg blows this one, he's no longer the baseball guy.
Yo, I almost made it, bro. We were this close.
It's okay.
I almost made it.
Say hi to the camera. Say hi to the people. How you doing, good baby girl? What's your name, baby girl? What's your name?
You can say hi. Just say hi. What's your name? Tell me your name.
Soraya, how you doing? Welcome to the Facebook Live of the Sports Hit List.
We almost made it.
It's all good, man. We all the family. It's all good, man. I love it. Please make sure you guys tune in if you have to join us for the special segment if you can. I know Sundays are pretty busy. It's family time. But if you guys can join us on the 12:30 slot, please, you're more than welcome. Just let me know, and we'll get you in on your quick thoughts for Sunday football. Thanks for joining us. Let me go into hockey. You guys stay well and stay safe. Bye, Soraya.
All right, bye. Say bye. Say bye, Mama.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
All
You're
right,
watching the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Let me bring in my hockey contributors to talk about the New York Islanders. Here they come in. The Islanders are down 3-2. They can potentially still make this a series. Gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. This is what happens. The NBA team took up their time. They didn't want to give up the crown. Then the NFL team said it's a ripple effect since the NBA took their time. They didn't want to give up the crown. So now you guys are late. I know I had you guys in to come in a little bit earlier, but we have to talk about the Islanders. They were down 3-1 last night in overtime. They ended up winning the game. Chuck, what are your thoughts? Can they pull this out?
Oof, Carl, I don't know. I will say, though, after last night, I do have a little bit more faith, but it's going to be tough. The Lightning were missing Point last night. He's their superstar, without a doubt. He might not play Game 6, so gives me a little bit more hope, but I don't know if they could win another 2 against Tampa. It's going to be tough, but they ain't dead yet.
Okay. Nick, could you try to be objective here or no?
I've been an Islanders fan my whole life, so that's meant a lot of disappointment. So it's very hard for me to enjoy these little things because it's always that part of me that's always kind of like waiting for the downfall. But I'm gonna try and stay confident. They look decent in that game. Overtime, they were a little shaky, but they look decent. They look decent in every other game besides Game 1. We're not talking about that. But, yeah, I think they look good. I think that if they can rally out and come out next game the way they did this game and win that one, I think that Barry Trotz can get them riled up for Game 7.
Okay. What's a better matchup for the Stars in the Stanley Cup? Is it the Islanders or the Lightning? Chuck?
I think I got to take the Isles. I think Tampa's the best team remaining, so without a doubt, I think the Islanders would be a better matchup for them.
All right. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to agree. With the Islanders would be the ideal matchup if I'm a Dallas Stars fan or player, because the Lightning's a team that if you make a mistake, they're going to make you pay for it. And obviously we've seen that all series long. So I don't think Dallas wants to deal with that.
All right. Could you guys make I know you're going to say the Islanders, but could you try to be objective here for the fans as opposed to saying the Islanders? What do we see coming here in Game 6? Well, let me say this. Who has more pressure? Because we just saw in basketball, a team down 3-1 give up the lead. Who has more pressure right now going into Game 6? Chuck?
I think Tampa has more pressure, to be honest. Even though they're the better team, they haven't been able to close out their last two series in the Eastern Conference Finals. They've been known to blow, these big leads up 3-2 and whatnot. So I think they have a lot of pressure. And the Islanders, they thrive when their backs are against the wall. They're a tough team. They're gritty. They're pesky. So I think the Islanders, they got the momentum now. Big double overtime win. Going into Game 6, I think the key is to have Johnny Boychuk in the lineup. He hasn't been in. I called for him in the lineup, ever since Game 2, Game 3. I think Taves and Mayfield, they've been terrible on the back end on the blue line. So having Boychuk back in the lineup was a huge presence last night, throwing the body, blocking shots. So that brings me confidence, and I think they got to roll out, 4 lines. I don't want to see another 11 forwards, 7 defensemen lineup. I want to see, your standard 12 and 6. Get Michael Dal Cole back on the third line, left wing. Even though he's not a flashy player, he plays Islanders hockey, and that's what we saw last night. That's why they won. You saw Islanders hockey, tough on the defensive end, giving up shots, but nothing too major. Tampa did have their opportunities, but for the most part of the game, the Islanders dictated play. So I think the Islanders could pull it out in Game 6, but I still don't know if they're going to win the series.
Nick, who has more pressure heading into Game 6 right now?
I got to say the Islanders have more pressure on them, only because they're a team, they're in the same position as, the Mets are, as the Nets are, that they'll always be that little brother team in New York. They'll never get the respect that they truly deserve because obviously they're crosstown rivals, the Rangers, a historic franchise. So I think that they have pressure to kind of cement themselves and show people that they belong here. I mean, I've been told by many people the Islanders don't belong in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I tone it all out because I know this team. I watched this team for years. I watched these guys develop, and I know this team does belong here. They have a lot of pressure because they have these good spurts where they'll have a really good game and then come out the next game and they'll be flat. They got to come out in Game 6 and play the same way they played Game 5. And if they win Game 6, same way Game 7, they play Game 6. They can't be doing this great game and then lousy game. They got to, full speed ahead, pedal to the metal.
We have a fan. Shout out to Manny Olivo. He said, don't you dare disrespect the Nets. He said, don't disrespect his Nets.
It's true. It's true.
We know what the Nets are already. It's okay, man. I know you're the only fan down there in Brooklyn rooting for them. We still love you, though, here at the Sports Hit List. Guys, real quick. So good luck to the Islanders. Hopefully they can pull it out. Real quick, while I have you, thoughts on Week 1 in the NFL. Just switching sports real quick. Chuck, on your Jets.
Typical Jets football. Listen, coming into the season, Carl, I said it from the beginning. They're going to be 4-12 probably. The team stinks. Adam Gase is a terrible head coach. Watching his offense is putrid. I sat down after I worked all day and watched Cowboys-Rams, and it was nice to see, teams put together a nice offensive display. Adam Gase runs no motion. He doesn't let Sam roll out of the pocket where Sam's at his absolute best, which is on the move. I don't understand what he thinks he's going to get by going run up the middle, and then pass when it's like 3rd and 12. So there's nothing I can say about that. Defensively, the Jets, they're pretty decent, I would say. They are missing a lot of guys on that side of the ball, so I'm not going to kill them too much, but the Jets are going to be terrible until Adam Gase is off the sideline.
All right, Nick, I got to call you to the front of the Hitless congregation. How do you lose to the Washington football team? How is that even possible for your Philadelphia Eagles? What's going on, man? What's up?
It's not good right now for the Eagles. I think that they have a lot of holes that they need to fix. Their wide receiver core, I know they added Rieger in the draft. They added Marquise Goodwin in free agency, but of course he opted out due to COVID-19. Alshon Jeffrey was hurt in Week 1. So, Carson Wentz's only 2 throwing touchdowns were to tight ends, Goddard and Ertz. I don't know. I really don't know what happened. The Eagles they came out rolling 17-0. I kicked my feet up. I relaxed. I'm like, oh, nice. This is a great win. Easy first, week dub. And then they came out in the second half and just fell apart. I really don't know what they need to do to fix it because it was sad. It was pathetic.
All right, final question I have before I let you guys go. Coming up next as our main event, we have the Julian Edelman debate between Marcus Lamar and Greg Folius. What are your thoughts on Julian Edelman? Is he overrated or not? Chuck?
Well, Carl, before I answer that, is the question not if he's the most overrated wide receiver of the decade or something.
Yes, yeah, along those lines. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, if you're going over like a course of period, I don't know if he's the most overrated, but definitely without a doubt overrated. And when I was watching Rick, Paul, and Travis, they were right. He was never a top guy, never top 5, 10, 20, whatever. And he's not a number one guy on the outside. He's a slot guy who beats zone coverage over the middle. He runs those slots. I don't want to say slants, but those crossing routes like 3 yards deep. But does he come up clutch? Yes, from time to time. And I think that has more to do with the game plan. But am I ever going to be scared of Julian Edelman lining up against my team? No. So he's overrated.
Nick, what are your thoughts on that debate?
I really don't have an opinion on the guy. I do think, though, I think he's a byproduct of Tom Brady. I think that now without Brady, you're really going to see who he really is as a player. And I don't know. I hate everything about the New England Patriots, their players, their coaching staff, their logo, stadium, anything. I hate the Patriots. So, yeah, give me overrated.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on the Sports Hit List. Go Islanders. I'll talk to you guys soon. Let me bring in Marcus Lamar to debate Greg as we wait for Greg to come in. Let's see. Marcus is coming in. Marcus, how you doing, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, man?
What's going on?
Good. So as we wait for Greg Polius to come in, what are your thoughts on the Clippers not making our, the matchup that we've been dreaming to see, Clippers-Lakers in the Western Conference Finals? What are your thoughts on that?
After the 2020 we've had, I should have known something was going to ruin this dream matchup for us, Carl. I really should have known. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing me on today. I appreciate you. I like what y'all got going on. As for the Clippers, we're going to get these jokes in, right? We're going to get these jokes in. But let's not act like Kawhi Leonard can't recover from this. This does not disqualify him from all-time status. This does not mean that he's not a great player. It just means that he had a bad series, which we've seen LeBron have. We've seen Kevin Durant have. We've certainly seen Steph Curry have. And we've seen Kobe Bryant have, God rest his soul. So can Kawhi Leonard recover from this? Absolutely. But with this being said, I think the Lakers should be the favorites to win a championship, and they certainly have been mine since they acquired Anthony Davis last season.
What are your thoughts on George Paul?
George Paul. Wow. It's crazy because George Paul could have been a Laker. And ironically, so could have Kawhi Leonard. Like, both of them had opportunities to join the Lakers organization, and they decided not to, which I respect. They decided to link up. But I've been telling people religiously, Carl, all season, I said Kawhi Leonard is established. If you're telling me Kawhi Leonard is proven, I'm good with that. But I do not trust George Paul as far as I can throw him. And that's what you saw. George Paul is not a second fiddle. I don't even know if he's really a third fiddle at this stage in his career. He might need a sports psychologist. This is all jokes aside.
Now Greg Poley is joining us here.
Greg,
real quick before we get to the debate, the hot topic of today, the Los Angeles Clippers not making it to the Western Conference Finals. What are your thoughts?
It was a major choke job. I hope Kawhi and PG get all the smoke. There's no reason you're up 3-1 and you phone it home in the last 3 games. Doc Rivers was thoroughly outcoached. I've been saying it for years. He's overrated. I don't know what more you could say.
Well, I will say this. This leads to a debate between you and I because Chris Paul was on the Doc Rivers team that choked 3-1. And when I gave him smoke, you had a problem with that. But I'm going to leave that conversation for another day.
We're going to have that conversation. Don't worry.
Well, yeah, we will. But today we're here to talk about Julian Edelman. You guys have been going back and forth about this. I believe it's been 2 years in the making to have this debate.
3 years.
3 years in the making. We've been having this debate. Marcus, I'm going to allow you to open up this argument, and you believe that he is not overrated. Why?
Well, first things first, I want to clarify because I watched the show today, and the 2 segments that led into our segment, they said that Julian Edelman was overrated. But the question as posed on the flyer promoting this bout was, is he the most overrated wide receiver of the decade?
Absolutely.
That is absurd in and of itself. The reason people like Greg Polius have a problem with Julian Edelman is because he's not packaged the way elite wide receivers typically are. But in any sport, what do we always say? The playoffs is where you make your name. Playoffs is more important than regular season, right? That's what we say. We say it for basketball and football. There's no receiver in New England Patriots history outside of Gronk, and technically speaking, he's not a wide receiver. When it comes to toughness, Julian Edelman is as tough as nails. He's great in the blocking game. He can create separation, which is why last year in 2019, He was third amongst wide receivers in creating catches with a single yard of separation, only behind DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas at 95 receptions on the season in that aspect. The dude is clutch and reliable, which is why Tom Brady has always viewed him as a security blanket. So with that being said, Greg Polius, this is your question. The onus is on you to state why you believe he's the most, not just overrated wide receiver, but of this decade.
First things first. Marcus, before I even get into my diatribe here, Marcus has this affinity for my fish tank. So I decided to bring on a vintage Mark My Words hoodie and put it in front of my fish tank to seeing as how my fish will get more views than Marcus's show.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that.
So there's that. Now, when you, Marcus Lamar, 3 years ago in 2017, out of your own mouth, say Julian Edelman is a top 5 receiver, then you say Julian Edelman is more important than Gronk, who is arguably the greatest tight end of all time, right? And that was real cute how you tried to slide in. He's a tight end, he's not a pass catcher. At the end of the day, he's a receiver. Whether it's tight end or wide receiver, his job is to catch passes. His job is to create mismatches. That's what Gronk did. That's what opened things up for Julian Edelman underneath. So that was a real cute little way you tried to do that. It's not going to work. If you, at any point in his career, call Julian Edelman a top 5 receiver, you are overrating him, period. Not only did you just won this in 2019. On your show, right, that you put the link in the chat, little tidbit, you, out of your mouth, said he led the league in drops last year. How can you call somebody a top wide receiver and out of your own mouth, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth? You know, before I even get into this, the stats, that year I went through some of the comments. You had AJ Green, I'm not going to order, Odell, DeAndre Hopkins, and Julio Jones as your top 4, and then you put Julian Edelman number 5. Mm-hmm. That is asinine at best. At best, it is asinine because a top 5 receiver. I like how you said, well, the players who make your name. But when we're talking top 5 talent, you don't only talk about the players. You talk about their body of work in the regular season and in the playoffs. You're not going to call some middling point guard in the NBA a top 5. You're not going to call Eric Bledsoe a top 5 point guard because he had some good runs in the postseason. No, because you have to be able to have that body of work in both the regular season and the postseason. Continue. Ask your questions, Carl.
Well, Marcus, what is your what are your thoughts on what Greg had to say here in his opening statement?
As Greg was rambling on and on, it just dawned on me, Carl, you're playing substitute teacher today. I thought Ray Jarvis was supposed to be hosting.
Yes, unfortunately, Ray Jarvis couldn't make it. He had an emergency, so I'm filling in for him. So
I hope all is well with him. That's cool. He gets to watch this on playback. Greg, first of all, you think you're slick because the question as posed on the flyer, you called this man the most overrated wide receiver of the decade.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me.
But it's 3 years ago, not within the decade. Yes or no?
Hold on.
Yes or no?
Greg, I appreciate you for listening to my podcast. Way to get those views up, right? I did say Julian Edelman led the league in drops last year with 13. The Patriots as a team had 23. The reason he led the league in drops is because he has lost a step. He was recovering from an injury, right? You do understand that, right? Mm-hmm. He's up there in age. But to call somebody who's played in 3 Super Bowls this decade, has won Super Bowl MVP as a wide receiver, the most overrated wide receiver of the decade, it's ridiculous. So since you're not a big fan of football, I know baseball is your bread and butter. Allow me to reiterate some things to you. In the playoffs, Julian Edelman has played in 19 playoff games. The Patriots have a 13-6 record. He's played in 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots. They're 3-0 in those Super Bowls. They beat Seattle, beat Atlanta, and beat the Rams. The Super Bowl he missed against the Eagles, they sure as hell could have used him because guess what? They lost. Rob Gronkowski played that game, had 2 touchdowns in a great game. You don't understand, and a lot of sports fans do, so I'm not going to fault you for this, the difference between valuable and best. Just because somebody is the best player on the team, so Gronkowski is obviously more talented than Julian Edelman. But if you ask Tom Brady, you sit him down and put him on a lie detector, who do you trust more? He would tell you it's Edelman. Gronkowski has been banged up for pretty much for the entirety of this decade. Rob Gronkowski is on his second team.
Yet still manages to be arguably the best tight end of all time.
Yes, there's no disputing that. Rob Gronkowski's numbers speak for themselves. But when I'm looking at a Julian Edelman, let me take you back to the Seattle Super Bowl, a game in which he received a concussion that game, still managed to finish the game. The Patriots were trailing 14-24 in that game. They ended up winning that game 28-24. Do you know who was big for them? Julian Edelman. 3rd and 14, fourth quarter, under 11 minutes to go. He converted a pivotal 3rd down. He capped off the drive, 3rd and 8, under 9 minutes to go, with a touchdown to put the Pats ahead 28-24. Should I take you to the Atlanta Super Bowl when he made that improbable catch? Or to the Rams Super Bowl? I'm not finished. Or to the Rams Super Bowl, where he had 10 catches and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of his 10 catches were for first downs, and most of them were on 3rd down, which is the money down in the NFL.
That's great, but you did not address the point of having to have the body of work in both the regular season and the playoffs to be considered a top. If you're going to call somebody a top 5 at any point in their career, I'm going to encompass that within a decade, right? You calling him top 5 at any point in his career is out of this realm. Like, you lose your footing on that because you emphatically stated that he was a top 5 wide receiver. Even though he's in this decade, he's led the league in drops. He's never been, if you go back to I think it was 2017 you were talking, per PFF, he was ranked 24th.
Okay, so let's ask this question. When we're talking about top 5, what are we looking for? And I ask this in all sports. Let me ask Marcus this. When you say top 5, what does that mean? Does that mean, a team accomplishment, individual, what is there a criteria, or do we make that on our own? Marcus?
There's absolutely a criteria.
There is a criteria, Carl. But again, if Greg's whole thing was, hey, I have an issue with you saying that he was top 5 in 2017, I would understand that. He's had that Julian Edelman is the most overrated wide receiver of this decade. That's what we're going to focus on today. That's what we're debating. Is he the most overrated?
Is 2017 and years prior, are they part of this decade? Yes or no?
Yes, but you're not talking about his production because you want to know.
I'm going to talk about his production. You harped on that point, so that's why I'm addressing it.
Okay, so let's talk about what he did prior to 2017, because he was a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He beat Atlanta, or helped the Patriots beat Atlanta.
Let me ask you a question. Did you ever view Hines Ward as a top 5 wide receiver?
No, because he doesn't have the body of work that Julian Edelman does in the postseason.
Okay, first of all, the Patriots as a team get to the postseason because they're good. So he's going to have those opportunities more than other people, right? Because if you put Odell on the Patriots, right, you're going to have
Carl, drop the pick.
There's no ifs. There's no ifs in sports. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
No ifs
we all know because
Sorry,
if we're going to look at talent and production, he works in that system. That's great. Look at what Brady did with Scott Miller. Who the hell is Scott Miller on Sunday? Yet he has, he's running the same exact routes and doing the same thing and leading the team in catches or damn near it in Tampa. Nobody knows who Scott Miller is. Julian Edelman is a product of Tom Brady, not a product of talent.
Okay, Greg, I have a quick comment here from Travis. He said T.O. led the league in drops and points but he was top 5. I'm just reading comments. What he said.
But the difference is T.O. had the talent and the production in both the regular season and the postseason.
And that's what this boils down to. Because if you ask me, who would I take in the postseason based on their body of work, Terrell Owens or Julian Edelman, I'm taking Julian Edelman. Again, I looked at this guy play.
I mean, I don't think I should continue, honestly, after a statement like that.
But that's the thing, Greg. You're judging Julian Edelman because he's not – you do know he was a former quarterback at Kent State, right?
What does that have to do with – he's a wide receiver now. He's been playing his whole career. I don't want to hear about him playing quarterback at Kent State, and he's been in the league 10-plus years.
So tell me this. You said that Julian Edelman is a product of Tom Brady, and that basically anybody who makes it to the playoffs as much as they do would pretty much have similar success. That's essentially what you alluded to.
No. What I'm saying is a more talented player, right?
How come Julian Edelman is second behind Jay Rice in receptions?
Because of games played. Because if you go back and look at the average depth of target and why Julian, and I mentioned this in my opening monologue, Rob Gronkowski's value was not just as a pass catcher, it was opening up the underneath of the field for Julian Edelman to catch these short little slants, right? That was part of their offense, how New England operated. So his job was to catch those underneath routes. So you telling me about his catches, it doesn't translate. It moves the chains, but does it translate into scoring? No. It doesn't.
Let me ask this question now. Tom Brady is no longer with the New England Patriots. Will we evaluate this year, or is Edelman past his prime, Greg?
I think he's past his prime. But it'll be interesting to see what he does in New England.
Okay, Marcus, that question, now that Tom Brady's gone, will you evaluate this year when we're talking about Julian Edelman, or does this year kind of basically pass his prime?
So let me get this straight. Edelman, I believe, is 34 years old. He's paired with a quarterback in Cam Newton, who's historically an inaccurate passer and is also coming off of an injury in a new system with no OTAs, no training camp, and no preseason. And I'm somehow supposed to use this season as an indictment or a referendum on what Julian Edelman's career has been up to par. That's ridiculous.
No, I didn't say it's an indictment.
No, we didn't say that. No, we didn't say that.
See, you're making up narratives.
The wide receiver of this decade. You know that's a bad take.
No, it's not a bad take when you guys like you and guys like Declan Krogman in the group call him the best slot of the decade and say he's top 5.
Who is that?
Okay. Marcus Travis here is chiming in with questions. He goes, Edelman lost a step but led in separation. That's his question. And he's going to the question mark. That's what he said.
I got that stat from PFF. He was third behind DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas in 2019, which I know is irrelevant because we're in 2020. But last year, he had 95 receptions with 1 step of separation, which is impressive. Edelman is elusive. He's great in the blocking game. And like I said, third down is the money down in the NFL. And there's nobody that Tom Brady trusts more, to include Rob Gronkowski or even Wes Welker. Wes Welker was phenomenal, but Wes Welker could not be trusted. He was the softest tissue in the microwave. He was always concussed, and he was constantly.
Yet somehow managed. You said he's softest tissue, yet somehow played more games than Julian Edelman in a Patriot uniform, and somehow managed to produce more than Julian Edelman in a Patriot uniform. That doesn't make sense.
He produced more what? Because Edelman has more Super Bowls, more Super Bowl appearances, and more receptions in the postseason that actually matter. I'll never forgive Edelman for dropping that pass against the Giants.
You'll never forget Wes Welker. So what you're telling me, so I cannot hold you on the indictment that you calling Julian Edelman a top 5 player at any point in his career, but you're going to hold one pass against Wes Welker for the entirety of his career. That's what you're telling me right now.
Okay, I said Edelman was top 5 at that moment in time. And again, if you want to make that the crux of your argument, go ahead. But there's still 9 other years.
When you have guys in the league like T.Y. at the time, I think it was Michael Thomas, like there's no way you're telling me that his body of work and his talent is above those guys. That is a false narrative.
Did I say that? Did I say say at one point in this conversation?
Okay, so Greg, let me ask this question.
No, you didn't say it. I have it written down. You've said these things.
So Greg, let me ask this question. Are we overlooking his career because he did play with Tom Brady? Is that a fair question?
It's because he's white, Carl. It's because
I knew you were going to play. I knew you were going to do that.
Here we go. Well, listen, I'm just going to be
That's why people have an issue with Julian Edelman.
Here we go. So,
like Carl, no offense. But
this is ironic from a habitual fence sitter, honestly.
Hold on. The kid who just was on the hockey segment, great hockey segment, I don't watch hockey, but he said he hates everything about the New England Patriots. So I just totally disqualify what he said. He has no objectivity on the subject matter. He's like, yeah.
Okay, so Greg says, so Marcus Lamar just threw out the racial card. What are your thoughts on that? Is that
ridiculous.
True?
It has nothing to do with race and everything to do with talent, right?
Julian Edelman is talented. Getting separation is
not, but he is not as talented as you made him seem throughout this decade. That is my point. That is the crux of my argument.
Greg, you're highlighting one time. Hold on, you're highlighting one time that I said that he was top 5 in 20.
It wasn't one time. It was like several times. I have several screenshots here, but okay, continue.
Okay, and that's fine. Was most of those coming during the playoff runs when he was coming up big? You called a 3-time Super Bowl champion, MVP.
One of them was in June. It was in June.
Right, let me ask you this. Rams Patriots Super Bowl, was Tom Brady atrocious?
He wasn't great.
Okay, he wasn't great. Was Julian Edelman phenomenal?
Safety blanket, but why?
No, I'm asking you a question because he had 12 targets, 10 receptions, 8 of them for first downs. Most of them coming on third down, which is the money down in the NFL. So he was constantly moving the chains, which is keeping drives alive. You just like to count touchdowns, which is a
I don't only like to count touchdowns. Okay, because hold on, Carl. Let me get this in because you just said you never viewed Hines Ward as a top 5 talent, right? But yet Hines Ward also has two Super Bowl rings and a Super Bowl MVP, has over 1,100 yards in the postseason, has in his one Super Bowl, he had five catches for 124 yards and, or 123 yards, 25 yards a target. You know what I'm saying? A catch and a TD. Like, what you're saying is that Hines Ward can't be a top 5 and put it up similar production, but Julian Edelman is a top 5. That's your New England Patriots fan Tom Brady bias right there speaking.
I'm not even a fan of the Patriots. It's number one.
Oh, I mean, you're a flip-flopper, so you have no actual team, so there's that. You're a Tom Brady fan.
Not a flip-flopper.
Okay.
Those of you watching, Carl, I want to tell the audience out there, I appreciate them for tuning in.
Okay.
Wherever
So
Tom
what
Brady
I did was,
is where I go.
so you know me. I just like to look up. We all have Google. We research it. So I looked up what was it in 2019. Who were the top 10 wide receivers of the decade?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to give you what the lists are. Again, I'm being totally objective here. We have Julio Jones at 1.
Yep.
Antonio Brown 2. Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Demaryius Thomas, T.Y. Hilton, Deshaun Jackson, and Dez Bryant. Those are the top 10 they have in.
It's not even close.
That's the list. That's the list. I'm just giving you the list.
Here's my thing. Yo, Carl, listen, hear me out. He's basing this solely on the playoffs, right? Not every team in the NFL is good enough to get to the playoffs. The Patriots are a 20-year dynasty. That's unheard of. So Julian Edelman is going to get more opportunities to do things like that. Whereas,
what did he do with those opportunities? What did he do with those opportunities?
Yes, but that doesn't mean he's more talented or produces more than the next guys ahead of him that Carl just named. If you're starting a franchise, you're not taking Julian Edelman in the decade over any of those guys.
Okay, so Marcus, you look at the list. I can look up another list to be fair if you don't believe the first one that I just looked up.
Carl, I'm not disputing that. If this is a taste of what marriage is like, trying to get to Greg Polius is impossible. Like, I never said that Julian Edelman was amongst the most talented wide receivers in the league.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did.
No, I didn't. What I said was because of his clutch play, his reliability, and his dependability. Like, for instance, if I have a football game tomorrow and I can take T.Y. Hilton and Julian Edelman, of course I'm taking Julian Edelman. What the hell has T.Y. Hilton done? Now, Carl, on the flip side, I want you to look up who were the 10 worst wide receivers of this decade. And I guarantee you Edelman's name is not going to come up on that.
Okay, you guys can debate and I'll look it up. Give me a sec. I'm going to look it up. Go ahead. You guys can go ahead.
So your whole thing was here.
As Greg looks through his notes. Go ahead, Greg.
Yep. Because where is it? Here we go. Now, throughout this decade, Julian Edelman has not only led the league in drops, he's also had the shortest average depth per target. Like,
he's an intermediate and slot guy. You're not.
So what you're telling me, right, is a slot guy is the most important part of that offense. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Edelman. You said it yourself earlier in this segment. Edelman was his security blanket.
That doesn't mean he's the most important. I said Gronk was the most important piece of that offense.
No, he's not.
So without Gronk, right, Julian Edelman cannot do what he does. Without any type of realistic threat in the scene, Julian Edelman does not do what he does.
Gronk has played in 2 of the Super Bowls they played in, and they've lost both of them. Edelman missed 1 Super Bowl, and they lost that game 41-33. Greg, for you to say someone who's 12th all-time in games for his franchise, 2nd in targets, means Brady trusts him, 2nd in receptions, 4th in yards, and top 10 in touchdowns, is the most overrated wide receiver of his decade. Like, that's a bad take.
No, what it means is that he's a product of Tom Brady, not a product of his talent.
Just like Brady's a product of Belichick, right? Of course.
I never said that. Well, I always said Brady is talented, right? But you're not going to sit here and tell me that the 10 guys that you named, that Carl named, you're taking Julian Edelman over those guys because that is how he ends up being the most overrated of decade. If you are telling me you're taking it over 10.
Yeah, so Marcus, there is no worst list. There is another second list of best, but Julian Edelman wasn't on that list either. I'm just giving you, like, if you look at bust, it's not.
Marcus has an affinity, but Carl, question. When we talk about top 10 or top 5 in any other sport, are we only focused on what they do in the postseason?
No, we look at the body of work for the coach.
You look at the body of work. You can't disqualify the fact that he is not a consistent performer amongst the elites in this game.
Hold on. So what you're telling me is, because Odell Beckham was phenomenal his first 3 or 4 seasons out the gate. His one and only playoff game against the Green Bay Packers, he had a case of the dropsies. Playoffs is weighted heavier than the regular season. I don't care if Calvin Johnson is catching 100 yards against the Carolina Panthers on a Tuesday, what do you do in January when your team needs to go to the AFC Championship game or
that's
Championship
real
game?
cute, but that doesn't encompass a top 5 player at any point.
Okay, so let me just wrap this up here. Back to addressing the question. Falco was in the comments saying we're not addressing the question. I believe we have throughout this debate, but
no, we haven't, because it's Greg's question. Greg, what you're telling me is that you can't name another receiver in the NFL in the last 10 years who's more overrated than Julian Edelman. If you feel like he's overrated,
because
that's
people don't talk about other receivers the way they talk about Julian Edelman. And like I said, you're discounting half of the argument to prop him up. So of course I'm going to make that comment. People are not
okay. So final thought. Okay. So Marcus, final thoughts here to wrap up, because I know you guys can go on and on and on. But your final points to the audience. Make your cases why to be for the question.
If people feel like Julian Edelman is overrated, that's fine. I know there's some New England animus out there, and I understand that he's white and he doesn't jump the fastest. He doesn't run the fastest. Excuse me. He doesn't jump the highest. So there's also some bias as it pertains to that. But when it comes to him being the most overrated wide receiver of the decade, a 3-time Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP at the wide receiver position, who was responsible by and large for the Patriots winning that Super Bowl against the LA Rams, cannot be the most overrated wide receiver of the decade. In fact, he's going into the Patriots Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor, and he's one of the best wide receivers we've ever seen, given his pedigree. This guy was a backup quarterback at Kent State University, or converted quarterback. Julian Edelman is that dude, or used to be that dude.
So,
Greg, final thoughts here to make an argument that
once again we're diving into the realm of players can be good and still be overrated. Just because you're overrated doesn't mean you're a bad player. We've gone over this in the baseball segments on several players, and you're doing it here again. You're making it seem like I'm saying he's a bad player. For what he does, he's a talent. But you're not going to sit here and tell me Hines Ward, who has a better body of work and a similar body of production in the regular season and a similar body of production in the postseason, along with 2 Super Bowls and a Super Bowl MVP, wasn't top 5 in his career. But then you're going to paint that same narrative that Julian Edelman is. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have both of those arguments because they're contradictory. And
Edelman was great at what he does. He was phenomenal. He wasn't good. Like, good is having a 3-day weekend. Edelman was great at what he did. Like phenomenal, like exceptional. Again, Wes Welker had better stats, but I don't trust Wes Welker more than I trust Edelman. Because he's always hurt.
But what about the drop that Edelman had that ended the Patriots dynasty pretty much?
The one last year in Tennessee on 2nd and 6. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
But what you're doing is,
I can pull up a great play that he made. Like, how about the improbable catch against the Falcons? Or how about the play?
I'm saying you could do that for Wes Welker as well. You're holding your hat on one catch, one drop from Wes Welker.
No, we can't. First of all, did they win the Super Bowl with Wes Welker? Every Super Bowl Edelman's played in, they've won, and he's been a factor in it. That's not conjecture. That's not speculation. That's a fact. So I don't know, whatever you want to do with that information. I'm just telling you, they played in the Super Bowl with Welker and Randy Moss and lost. They played in 2 Super Bowls with Wes Welker and lost. Matter of fact, he's 0-2.
So again, like I said, you're taking it from a team perspective. That's been your whole angle this whole time, a team perspective. But yet we're talking about Julian Edelman, the individual.
Outside of Tom.
Right? Again, you cannot tell me, I'm seeing comments across social media how he's top this and top that, but he doesn't have the entire body of work to be considered that, or that he's the best at his position and what he does, of the decade based solely on one thing.
Again, you stating that he's the most overrated wide receiver of this decade is a lie, because I'm pretty sure if you sit down, I know football might not be your bread and butter, but I'm pretty sure if you sit down and think about it, you can think of another wide receiver who's either gotten more praise or adulation than Edelman, who isn't, quote unquote, in your eyes, worthy of it. Julian Edelman is worthy of everything that people give him. Now, is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. He's going into the Patriots Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor, but all I do know is that he's second in receptions in the postseason. He was responsible for beating the Rams last year because he single-handedly was dominating them. When you catch 10 out of 12 passes and 8 of them are for first downs, and most of them are on third down, that's called moving the chain. That's called keeping.
Like I said, if you're not going to give Hines Ward the same credit, you can't then say that what I'm saying is that off. Because
Hines Ward was phenomenal. He was a great blocker, but I wouldn't take him over Julian Edelman. I like Julian Edelman. The cat's out the bag. I like Julian Edelman.
Okay, so
it's biased.
Okay, guys. So I was able to find a list that has the The top 9 most overrated players. I guess it says players. I'm sorry. Well, it doesn't say wide receivers. Never mind. Okay. I thought it was going to say wide receivers, but it didn't. Continue.
We could look that up in the group.
We can. Absolutely. But gentlemen, you guys did a wonderful job here. Let the fans decide. Honestly, it's a fan thing. I'll definitely repost this debate, but honestly, the people will speak and they'll see. I think both of you guys had excellent points. But let the fans decide on what they think about Julian Edelman and his career.
Make sure they know the question, Carl. Is he the most overrated wide receiver of the decade? Not is he overrated.
Right.
Is he the most overrated wide receiver of the decade?
If at any point, like I said, you're considering somebody a top 5 receiver at any point of the decade without considering their entire body of work, absolutely.
All right, guys, thank you for watching the Sports Hit List, and thank you for joining me here on the live. It was definitely an entertaining show. We talked a little bit about Lakers and the Clippers. We talked some NBA. We talked some NHL. So coming on Sundays at 12:30, we're doing NFL pregame. If you guys are around, you want to join us, just shoot me a text. Let me know if you guys can join us. Please make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Also, check out Mark My Words. Marcus, when's your next show coming out?
Next Wednesday, I'll be back in studio to give my thoughts on the disastrous end to the Clippers season. I'm pretty sure I have some fun with that. I'll calm everybody down about the overreaction to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm glad that football is back. Football is king, by the way. I agree with Travis.
I disagree with that. No.
NBA Carl, football is king.
Listen. NBA is king. We know what it is.
Stop
The truth hurts. You guys have a good day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.